Hello and welcome, my name is Céline, and today I thought I would have you guys help me go through my yarn stash, sort of like a little hangout. I've been collecting yarn for 4 years since I started knitting. I don't have the best memories, so I forget everything I have, which is not good. I keep my yarn stash tucked away in my couch storage, so I don't really see it every day. When I open it, I usually know what I'm going for and I don't sift through everything, so I still feel like I'm about to go into a little treasure hunt and I'm not sure what I'm gonna find. Since I love to read your guys' comments while you watch this, please let me know how your yarn stash is looking. What's the oldest yarn you have in there? All right, I think it's time to head into it. The latest addition to my yarn stash is the cutest little box that I received from Hooks and Needles, who also so kindly sponsored this segment of the video. But this was unlike any other yarn acquisition that I've experienced because I had never gotten a knitting box before. I filmed me opening the box because that's obviously as fun as the actual knitting. I also have a finished object from this, but I'll show you that after I open the box. I mean, isn't that a treat? It's so cute, such a good gift for a knitter. A really good beginner box set. It comes with 3 patterns and everything you need to make them, and I'll show you what I made. I made a little mug cozy which plays with cables and 2 buttons to make a little owl. It's so cute. In case you're interested in checking this out, I was given a discount code for you guys, so if you click the link in the description or if you type Woozy by Céline 20 at checkout, you'll be able to get 20% off your first box. This was lying around the house, so now it's time to open up the storage, open up the vault and see what we find. It's a little later in the day. My flat just got too warm to film, so I had to take a break. I had my lunch, saffron risotto, also known as risotto alla milanese, so good. I redid my fringe, I touched up my makeup because your girl is leaving the house for once. I spent about 10 minutes going through the stash, dividing the yarn leftovers from my past projects and then the untouched skeins. In regards to yarn leftovers, there is an overarching intention to keep on collecting them and then eventually use them to make a really nice leftover project. I feel like it's more exciting to see the newer yarn that I still have to make a dent in. So shall we begin? So here's the first bag, full of exciting things. The first thing I see are these hand-dyed hanks from Bird Street Yarn that I picked up at Unravel Festival in February, which by the way, I'm so excited for Unravel in September. It's so fine by me that this festival is twice a year. But anyways, in February, I was walking by their stand and they had this sample of a shawl that was knitted in 3 different colorways and they looked beautiful together. I could not pass on those. So I got 2 of the shades. And this is the shade Beachcomber and Kelp. They are 75 superwash merino and 25% nylon, 100 grams, 425 meters. This is essentially a sock yarn. But I'm just gonna use it for a top and I can't resist the idea of using them at the same time, potentially alternating 1 stitch in one shade and 1 stitch in the other. I think that's so, so gorgeous. I still have not narrowed down a specific pattern, so let me know if you have any suggestions. I'm so looking forward to using these. Carrying on with some speckled goodness, I have this beautiful sock yarn from Concept by Katya. This is their Taika sock. It's a DK weight superwash merino. This is also 75 wool and 25 polyamide, 400 meters, 150 grams, and it reminds me of a beautiful hidden meadow in the forest. I don't know, it's just so beautiful and dainty. I don't have the best relationship with socks. I have a super bad case of second sock syndrome. I don't think it's going to be, my eye is twitching by the way, it's really annoying. I don't think I'll knit a lace sock with this just because it's very busy on its own. So it's probably gonna be a vanilla sock. And at some point, I'll build up the courage and use this. Oh, and this is the shade 153. Another little souvenir from Unravel Festival is this Zakami hank. This was from a little lucky dip that they were doing. I never win anything, so I was very happy that I could pick this beautiful skein of variegated goodness. This will look so good as a pop of color in a very simple sweater. I imagined something in a similar maroon purpley shade and then just a stripe in the middle of the sleeve or something, you know, something really funky. It would also look great to use for a statement ribbing on some top or even a sweater. I feel like I'm just waiting for the perfect project to come along where it'll just be so obvious that this is what it's meant to go with, you know? I was very intrigued by the colorway. I think it's very unique. I also love the ply of this fiber. It's really pretty. I think it's very decorative the way this is plied. Then we have a full skein of the Isier Eco Soft, which has now been rebranded to just Soft. This is in the shade E8S, and it is actually some leftover from a previous project. I knit the second sample for my first ever design of the Winnie sweater with this, but I still wanted to mention this because I finally figured out what I should use this for. Matching to my sweater, I want to make a little hood with a nice little bow tie below the chin. I thought about this idea yesterday and I haven't had the time to look for some patterns, but I have a feeling that Kutowakika has one, and if she does, it's red and I want to make that one. I haven't checked the yarn requirements, so one skein is probably not enough, but I'm happy to buy a second skein. Quite a lot of sock yarn in here. But I have 2 skeins of the Onion Knit Nettle sock yarn. I was really intrigued by the content being 70% wool and 30% nettle fibers. I bought this at Wild and Woolly, I believe. The one in Clapton. Is that the one? But yeah, I'd never seen this before and I thought that would be cute, you know, have some nettle in my socks. I got the white shade, which is color 1001, and I'll be making some nice lace socks. In fact, let me look at my 52 weeks of socks and I'm gonna tell you which ones I'm thinking. I definitely love the Kaisla socks, the Erica, and the Una. In fact, let's do a little poll in the comments. Let me know which one out of the 3 I should knit using this yarn. Next is gorgeous. It's the Isier Silk Mohair in the shade 6. I love this mohair. It's super fluffy and silky and soft. I don't have a lot of issues with mohair in general, so I'm not the best person to tell you this, but I've heard that is one of the least scratchy mohairs out there. So definitely recommend that for that reason. Also, I am obsessed with this shade. It's the same one that I used for my Ingrid sweater. This has 75% kid mohair and 25% silk. I have 5 skeins. I also have a little start to a project, which is no longer going to be, but this is how it works up. I think I was working it on maybe like a 6 or a 6.5 single-stranded. It's so, so beautiful. My intentions with this is to knit the second sample for one of the designs that I'm working on that you may have seen in one of my podcasts, that robe-like, extremely oversized cardigan that I made in 5 strands of mohair. I really want to create a sample where I'm only using 1 strand so that it can also be a more affordable project. The look will definitely be quite different, but I think it's so nice to have the option to choose. In this shade particularly, it will be super classy and elegant and dainty and just unlike any piece I own in my wardrobe. So I'm very excited to use this. I've also been such a great fan of knitting mohair single-stranded on bigger needles. This specific cardigan that I'm talking about, I knit, I think on 10mm. I think it's 10. This is a fun one. Okay, so in here we have 2 skeins of this really fun yarn that I got in Italy. If you've seen my scribble top by Rose Knitwear, I knit that in the same yarn, just in a different shade. That was shade 75. This is shade 100 of the Formentera yarn by Silke by Arvier. I bought this at Il Filo di Arianna in Trezzo sull'Adda. I gravitated towards this yarn because it reminded me of Noro. So this is what this shade looks like. It just has all the colors you can think of. It's so fun, and it is a cotton linen blend. So it's 55 cotton and 45% linen. I used 2 entire skeins for the scribble top, so I can only make some sort of cami with this one. Either something that has a really open gauge or something a little bit more cropped. I don't know. I still have to think of a pattern for this, but it has to be worth this beautiful colorway because we're not wasting this on anything not good enough, you know? Next, I have 2 skeins that I always see as a pair. So they're both hand-dyed. This is the cashmere base from Beautiful Knitters in this nice pink. It's got quite a purpley undertone, I would say. And then we have this one by the brand that I call Sizzlergit, which is clearly not the right pronunciation, but I've tried pronouncing it correctly and it just doesn't work. My brain is not that advanced, so I really apologize. But this is some Surrey and cashmere blend. I think it had the word luxury in the name. But yeah, it's really beautiful. It's got this like sunsetty colorway. It's fiery, and for some reason, I think it looks really good with this. Despite them having two different undertones, this is warm, this is cooler, but I don't know, it just works, does it not? Obviously, they're in two different weights, so I'm thinking something extremely funky for this. Something that's way beyond out of my comfort zone. This is just like me in another universe. I don't know if I'll ever wear whatever I'll make with this. I'm thinking something super open gauge. I have some reference photos. I might have to just self-draft a pattern. Maybe I can make like a shrug just to be even crazier. I think this will be a project for when I have an identity crisis. This is a yarn scrap, but I really want to mention my intentions with this. So this is some leftover Surrey lace from the Camel's yarn in my favorite colorway ever of like any yarn, I think. This is Pebble Beach. I made my Lialike simple knit hood with this and the DK, and I just really want to make a whole sweater in this colorway, but we dream on. You've seen this recently, but I have an update. This is the Veganits plain yarn that I got on my trip to Estepona in Marbella in Spain. This is 100% cotton, shade is Ines, very peculiar fiber, it almost feels like paper. I said in my previous video that this would be the perfect lace weight to create a different version of my Sadie top that's about to be released in August. So I casted that on, and this is what it's looking like. However, guys, I had the brilliant idea of trying to knit this entire top continental. I'm an English thrower and I've been having fun learning continental. So I was like, okay, I feel like I'm ready to knit a whole garment entirely in continental. Not sure if I'm that ready because the gauge on this is not super uniform. I mean, it's okay, but the German short row section is so bad. So it's looking really bad, and I think I'm just gonna have to rip this back and just knit it English style, just the way I'm used to, just so it guarantees a nice even stitch. Continental knitting aside, this fiber is so fun to work. I'm having the best time. I won't be having the best time unraveling this, but I will gladly reknit this. Sadie top is knitted on 6.5mm needles, so it goes by really fast. I think this fiber is perfect for the design. It's so, so pretty, and it makes me so happy because people that can't wear or work with mohair also have the option of using something like this, and I think the top would look so amazing. So I'll be sure to finish that before the pattern release so that you guys can see what it looks like. Also, the way I wound up my yarn looks like a lemon, and I think it's very cute. And I love this shade. It's a beautiful yellow buttery shade. Lastly, in this bag, we have a Drops Alpaca skein in the shade 0302. It's this muted rosy color, and honestly, I'm not sure if I'm ever gonna use this. I know at some point I wanna gather all the odd skeins that I know I won't want to use and give them away. I actually have used this before. I used it for my fake knit beanie by Mermaid's Yarns. That's a crochet project. Also from Drops, we have a whole bag of this gorgeous shade of mohair. So this is the Drops Kid Silk mohair, which is 75% mohair and 25% silk as well. This is the shade 24, and it is insane. I had bought this mohair, I think over a year and a half ago. I was very keen to try and design my first top. I remember I got my iPad and I drew out this design, which honestly the concept is pretty cute and I would love to revisit it. But it was basically like a boat neck, tight fitting, you know, some negative ease in there. Boat neck, ruffled. I cast it on like 700 stitches because my intention was to create rapid decreases over like 2 rounds so that I could make those ruffles, or at least that was what I wanted to try. But 700 stitches, I think I worked half of the first round and I said, this is absolute insanity. I just can't do 700 stitches. So yeah, it's still lying in my stash. I've had this for quite a while now. And in the meantime, I learned that I'm not the biggest fan of Drops mohair. Even on me, it's a bit itchy. I mean, I can sit through it, I can wear the garment the whole day, but it's still not pleasant. But it's a shame, the color is gorgeous, so I may still use it, you know? I don't really buy drops yarn anymore, but in the beginning, I really was grateful for the fact that it could allow me to afford to make mistakes. It was really nice to get my practice in without having to worry about potentially ruining some really nice yarn. So we still have some drops yarn, and this is a project that I unraveled because it was one of my firsts and it just wasn't cute. This is the Drops Sky in the shade 07. This has 74% alpaca, 18% polyamide, and 8% wool. It's a chainette, and it is so soft. One of the first knitting YouTubers that I started watching was Typical Bliss, that I still watch to this day. And at some point she came out with a pattern replicating a knitted set that Kendall Jenner had worn. So it was a bandeau top with some flower embroidery on it, and then it had a matching cropped cable sweater. So she released that pattern, and I don't know what I did. I messed something up. It just wasn't cute. I decided to unravel it. I still haven't unraveled the bandeau, so this is her. I've not worn it once. The embroidery on it, it kind of looks like a little skeleton hand, like a little Halloween embroidery. Do you see that too? I love this fabric. It's a DK weight. However, this specific bandeau, I knitted on 6mm needles, and I love the drape that it gives. It's not very gappy considering it's a DK worked on 6mm, but I think it's just because of the chainette structure that really bounces and fills up those spaces, so it's not super holey. Yeah, eventually I'll unravel the bandeau. I have many skeins in here. My intent for this yarn is to make the ruffle cardigan by Knitharina. It's so beautiful, so my style, especially if I'll knit it in sage green. It's like a staple color of mine, you know? I was obsessed with this shade for years. Now I venture into a wider range of shades, but I still have a sage green heart. I think the drape of the alpaca will be so good for the ruffly part of the cardigan, and then it will be so snuggly and soft. Honestly, I think out of all the drops yarns that I've tried, this might be my favorite, and one that I would probably buy again for a project these days. Brief mention of some yarn that I've recently brought on a podcast is the Isier Trio 1 in the shade Ink, this beautiful black lace weight that I'll be pairing up with some Fonty Merlin 100% linen. This is 50% linen, 30% cotton, 20% lyocell. I'll be using one strand of this, 2 strands of this to create the Ophelia blouse by Starcross Knits. I've not knitted myself a garment in black, so this will be a first, and I cannot wait. I was saying just yesterday that I must also knit a black sweater at some point. Let's just add some more yarn to my stash, because I really need it. When I started crocheting, I would just buy a bunch of cotton without even knowing what I wanted to use it for, and I still have some remains of that era. A bag of white cotton. This is Drops Muscat, shade 18. It's just a stark white. I don't know if I would go for like a bright, like gesso white. Gesso? Surely you don't say gesso. Gesso? Guys, to me, it's gesso, okay? Okay, so I have loads of skeins of that. I don't really see myself using this for a crochet top, perhaps for a bag at some point. I really hope to be digging into my Hjertegarn yarn soon. This is the New Life wool, which is 65% recycled wool, 35% recycled mixed fibers. It's made out of old sweaters collected at recycling stations. It's in this beautiful bubblegum pink. Color is 4220. It is a worsted weight, and look how yummy it looks in the cake. A literal cake. I love the tweediness of it. I don't have anything tweedy. I don't generally gravitate towards tweed, but this is so scrumptious to me. I cannot wait to make it. And yeah, I think it's going to be the protagonist in my how to modify knitting patterns video. The requests for that video went crazy, which obviously makes me so happy. I feel like when I suggested that I could make that video, I didn't really think it through, but now that I've thought about it, I realize it is a bit complicated. But you guys, don't worry, I'm gonna work on it and I will deliver that video, because I think it's a good video to make, you know? I love the shade. Also have the perfect shoes for this. I don't know what happened to me this year. Something clicked in my brain and I just am so in love with color. If you would have told 15-year-old me that I'd be walking around wearing yellow and pink shoes one day, I wouldn't have believed you. I feel like every single yarn is super exciting, but this is really exciting. We have all of the yarn for my Hirschelm Bomber by Kit Couture. So this is the Kit Couture Highland yarn. It's 100% wool in all these beautiful shades, and honestly, I cannot wait to knit this cardigan. I had the honor of wearing this already because there's a sample of it at Beautiful Knitters, and I wore it to unravel because it's just a statement piece. It's so good. So I had to get the yarn to make one myself. It makes me really happy looking at them. My dear friend Karen, who is the owner of Beautiful Knitters, who I often refer to as my yarn angel, wanted to lighten up her yarn stash. So she was just like, do you want to go for my yarn stash and pick some yarn that you like? And I was like, yes, please. Everyone deserves a Karen in their life. This is what I got. A beautiful hank of a magical Noro. This is Kashiru. It's 40% silk, 30% wool, 20% cashmere, and 10% polyamide. I only have this single skein, which is 75 grams and 165 meters. The shade is color 24. And this is where I ask you guys, I've got fluff all over. This is where I ask you guys to drop some single skein project recommendations in the comments. What can I make with this? Some more purple is this Juniper Moon Farm Moonshine yarn, which is a luxury blend of Peruvian Highland wool, extra fine baby alpaca, and organic silk. Yummy. This is color 6-9. Recommended gauge is 16 to 20 stitches. Once again, only one skein, 100 grams, 180 meters. What shall we make? Another purple, a lot of purple, from Juniper Moon Farm. This is their Harriet yarn, which is pure extra fine baby alpaca, 100% baby alpaca. Let me tell you, this is soft. I love that the strand has some red and then some blue strands, and that's creating the purple. I just can't get over how soft this is. It's so good. Speaking of softness, we have another one from Juniper Moon Farm. This is Harriet Great. So it's the great version of this, and I think it just means that this is bulkier. In fact, you work this on 5 to 6 millimeter needles, whereas this is for 375s or 4.5. Gauge on this is 21 to 24 stitches and 14 and 16 on this. Another huge bag from Karen's stash. We have 2 little balls of Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere. I think these two pair up so nicely, so I must make something using them both. Some simple color work, maybe a little neckerchief. I think my mom would love this combination, so at some point I could make a little gift knit for her. Some odd skeins of Cardiff cashmere. I think these ones pair up super nicely. This could be used as a pop of color. I did mention that I want to do more knitting in black, and we have just that in this bag. So I have 3 skeins of the Pearl Soho Mulberry Merino in the shade 3040, which is not a jet black. It's quite dimensional. So one of my favorite plies is super decorative and cute, as you can see. Then you can also see a little bit of like a gold shine. It almost looks like golden eyeshadow. I remember when I used to do a lot of makeup for fun, I'd be wearing black and then I'd drop some golden eyeshadow on my black jeans and then I'd wipe it off and it would still have a little bit of a gold dust to it. That's what it reminds me of, and it's so special. I've not seen this before. It's so pretty and soft. It's 80% extra fine merino wool and 20% mulberry silk. Don't have a full sweater quantity, but this should be enough for a slipover. I would love a black slipover. In fact, I would love more slipovers. I only have one, and I definitely need to add them to my wardrobe, so that's what I'm gonna be using this for. I don't have the labels for these, but I believe it's herd. It definitely smells of sheep. So beautiful. We have 2 skeins of a bit of a deeper brown, and then one in a slight lighter brown, and then we have a cream. Really don't know what I could make with this, you know? I really want to make my hot water bottle a cover in color work, and maybe this could be good for it, although I wasn't really envisioning a brown one for some reason. I feel like a hot water bottle should be like a blue or a red, you know? Oh look, another cashmere. This was actually not from Karen, it was from my mom. She did a big Sophie scarf, and she had some leftover that she didn't know what to use for, so she passed it on to me. Thanks, Mom. I have this lace weight yarn from Shibui. They did quite a job at printing this label. They just printed information for 2 different yarns on top of each other. So I'm not sure what this yarn is. It's either the yarn Cima or the yarn Staccato. I can't tell what it is. In any case, this is the shade... Oh, we don't know what shade it is. Yes, we do. Fog. Made in Peru. Karen also had a half knitted project in this beautiful cashmerino. She couldn't find the rest of the balls, so I have a very limited amount. It's so soft, you guys. It's a really nice taupey color. It's a bit purpley, a little bit gray. It's very beautiful and shiny. And I was thinking, since I only have very little, I could make a bralette. It would be so cozy and comfy, and I think just bralette screams the name of this yarn, which we don't know, by the way, because there's no label. So I'm sorry, I'm not being very helpful. Another cashmere skein of Cardiff. This is in classic shade 518. We have one skein of this beautiful white yarn. This is from the Fiber Co. It's their Cumbria yarn. Color is white heather, 100 grams, 216 meters. It's 90% wool and 10% mohair, made in Peru, 18 to 20 stitches gauge. I would love to make colorwork mittens at some point, and I have a feeling this would be perfect. Perhaps paired with this beautiful gray, which is from Walcott Yarns. This is their Opus yarn. Content is 70% Falkland Merino, 30% baby alpaca, so lighter weight than the white, but I'm happy to pair this with some mohair so I can thicken it up and make sure it's the same weight as this. Also, this has mohair in it, so I feel like it only makes sense. Last things in this bag are what I think are different shades of the same yarn. Only one of them had a tag, so allegedly they're all Pearl Soho Cashmere Merino Bloom Heather, which is 75% merino and 25% cashmere. Gorgeous. We have it in this gorgeous dusty blue shade, some different light grays, a dusty pink, a light aqua green, and then this shade, which is quite peculiar. It's like a yellowy pink, like muted salmon. Another little bag from Karen. This has a bunch of mohair. We have the Osterman Kid Silk in the shade 10, which is just a white. Rowan Kid Silk Haze in the shade 00589. Reminds me of the Knitting for Olive Dusty Violet shade, which is gorgeous. This one's a leftover from my honey bucket bag. It's the Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the shade Dusty Dove Blue. Guys, we're at the last bag. This is also the remainder of the yarn that I received as a gift from Hobby, and I'm so excited to get to the Rainbow Bamboo yarn because it's honestly the softest and silkiest. It reminds me kind of baby alpaca silk without the wooliness of it. I love the shade. It's this beautiful, muted sage green. The number is 15 and I love it. I'm gonna make the Backless Sweetie by Mermaid's Yarn. It's a crochet top. In general, crocheting is not my priority, so that's why I still haven't gotten to this, but the second I get the urge of crocheting, I'm starting this. I also have their Florence fiber, which is 100% flax linen in a beautiful whipped cream shade. This is color 01. And I had intended to make one of the honey accessories from Petite Knit. However, in the meantime, I've made my honey bucket bag with normal wool, which is less tough on the hands than this. But that was really tough on the hands just because of the brioche stitch. So I'm like, yeah, can't really do honeycomb brioche stitch with this strand. I think my hands would fall off. So I'm thinking just a simple stockinette tote bag would look so, so pretty. I can't imagine a better little gift to myself for next summer. Guys, that's all that was in my yarn stash. I had so much fun going through everything and it was really good to just remind myself of what I have so that I can make clearer plans in my head and hopefully limit my purchases in the near future. Do you know that thing where buying yarn and knitting are two different hobbies? As always, please remember to let me know in the comments what is currently on your needles. In fact, feel free to type up a whole little yarn podcast because it's the most fun to read through everyone's. Also, let me know what's the next yarn in your stash you're going to reach out for to knit the next project. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was a grand time. I will leave my Instagram on the screen in case you're interested in following my creations more in real time. And for now, I'll say goodbye and I hope to see you in the next video.